So I'll try and raise my voice. Good evening. Welcome to night two. Um, so we are about to embark upon the last part of this training, imagine. And we are going to do a little recap of what we did last night, and then we're going to get into some more material. Um, Now, the material that we're about to get into this evening includes a case study, and it also includes an audio of a client. So it's a 2-minute audio that you'll listen to at the end that should bring all of this together. So that is what we're going to do. But before we do any of that, I'm going to recap and then I'm going to answer the questions that were sent to us. Now, the questions that were sent to us come twofold. One of them, or some of them, are about process. So some of them are about the material that we've talked about. And a lot of them are about the training aspect of this. And so I'll speak to that towards the latter end. So anybody that's asked a training question or a technical question about training, then I'll speak to that. But I'm going to be leaning into the more process questions first. Everybody happy enough for that? And I always think when somebody asks a question, it's probably something that somebody else is thinking, but nobody else has asked. So to answer the questions are very, for me, a very important part. But in order to ask and answer the questions, let's do the small recap. Last night we talked about the 4 principles of emotional lockdown, the things that create the processes, internal processes within us that create this incapacity to be with the wounded material that we need to transform. So I'm going to say that again. So the incapacity to be with the wounded material that we need to transform. Because in the main, most people come to therapy because there is something that is agitating them. So there's something that is bringing them to that therapeutic process. And what we're trying to do as therapists, no matter the modality, is that we're trying to get underneath that story to that is the issue, to that is the core issue. Inside clearing, we talk about primary pain. Other modalities talk about developmental trauma or trauma patterns, but inside clearing, we talk very specifically about primary pain. And tonight we're going to talk a wee tiny bit about that. So when we talked about last night, we talked about these 4 components that come together to create this incapacity. This incapacity is often read in the therapeutic circles as an unwillingness or a procrastination or a resistance to therapy or a resistance to change. And what we're saying and what I'm saying is that it's not any of that. It can be too, but in the main, it's actually not an unwillingness, it's an incapacity. Because it's just too noisy in there. And I think somebody has spoken to that beautifully. It was Lona spoke to that beautifully yesterday when she says it's really, really, really difficult place to be hearing all of that material inside yourself. So there were the 4 components. Let's run through them again because some of the questions come from these 4 components. The 4 components are this disunity, the incapacity to be in the body, where you're better in your mind, you're better in the story, you're better in the narrative, you're better up above that is the problem. And you really don't have the skill, or you've lost the skill somewhere along the line of being connected to this body, being connected to the emotional material in the body. And that skill may have been lost over time as an unconscious process. And so we have this question of unity. The second thing that we talked about was this ability to self-regulate, to self-process, to self-soothe. And what we were saying was that we often have internalized how we were soothed ourselves in childhood or as young adults. And we internalize that, so we become the voice of the mother, we become the voice of the father, chastising us, not soothing ourselves at all, actually not caring for ourselves at all. So that's an internal voice. So disunity is a incapacity, and self or lack of self-regulation is an internal process. It's an internal voice. And then we had the big player that causes most of the difficulty, which is what we call rapping. And we're going to go on to talk about rapping in much more detail tonight. But just as an overview, rapping is the interjections, cultural interjections, the familial interjections of emotion and and what it means to have emotion, and what it means that you have it, and how unlovable you are, and how rotten you are, and how difficult you are, and all of that interjections we now carry. There is nobody else's voices here. There's nobody else telling us. It's our own internal process. You know, Gabor Mate said trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens within you. And we're getting a glimpse of what is happening around what is happening inside you. So rapping is a huge player. And we talked about two pieces of rapping. We talked about a conceptual rapping, which is interjected from others. And then we talked about experiential rapping, which is an experience that we've had that nobody can tell us, that no amount of psychoeducation will ever change, where we have had this very, very, very painful experience with some of this emotional material. And we are literally petrified of it. That then is made worse by the way that the psyche wants to hold on to the wounding, which is where the what questions come from. And that was one of the questions. The what question is, what will become of me? What will happen to me? This me that I know in this wounding, this me that I know in this space, this me that I know because I know how to be in this, even no matter how difficult it is. There's a sense of the self in all of this. And if I start to change, I don't know what will become of me. So if we've got terror or fear or an existential question about ourselves, there is no way in the world we're going to go try and deepen into this emotional wounding. And we get this lockdown, we get this disunity. And so disunity is presented in therapy in many ways. And what I want to do tonight for you, right, is I want you to have an assessment tool that assesses your clients. An assessment tool that has been in the field for a lifetime, that I want you to see through a different lens tonight, right? An assessment tool that Carl Rogers framed as the stages of process. So we're going to look at that assessment tool tonight. But what I want you to do is very clear. What I want you to do is I want you to use the stages of process, this assessment tool, to assess how much your client is in emotional lockdown. Because the lower the stage of process, the more factors that are at play keeping your client locked down. Does that make sense? And so we're going to go through the stages of process, and you're going to ask your questions. Maybe if you want to even ask your questions of yourself, where am I? Where am I in this? Where is the majority of my clients showing up? Because if the majority of your clients are showing up in the lower ends of process, then it is imperative that you understand these aspects of the therapeutic preparation process. So, without further ado, I am going to okay. Good. Okay. So, Luna, is the sound better? Are you hearing me better? Am I more clear now? Yeah, everybody okay with the volume? Okay, great. So I'm going to share a document. It's a bit of a wordy document, but if you, for those of you that are visual learners, I will speak over it and I'll give you examples. But what I would like you to do is I'd like you to interact with me. So I'd like you to put in the chat where as you begin to understand this stuff, where you are or maybe where your clients are. If it feels safer to put where your clients are, then that's fine. So if you've got a lot of clients in stage 1 to 2, I just want you to put that in the chat. What that does is it helps everybody see where the majority of your clients are coming from. And also share, there's a commonality in that, and we talked a wee bit about that last night. So let me share the document. Jenny, you let me know if you can see that document as it appears, all right? Not there yet, all right. Okay, here we go. All right, now, I wonder, can we make this bigger? Is that better? Better, Mary. Well, we see if we can make it another wee bit bigger. That better? Okay, fantastic. All right. So the stages of process in relation to problems that the client is presenting, right? So the lower the stage, stage 1, the more likely the components of emotional lockdown are at play. Stage 1, fixed and rigid understanding of the problem or of the self. Most people who are stage 1 don't actually volunteer for therapy. They're normally mandated. They're normally mandated by the government, or they're sent by their spouses, or they're under threat of something, and they have to attend. Does any of you have any clients like that at the moment? They are completely rigid, completely, they are defensive, they are resistant to talking about it. Everything is outside. They're only here because of the other. There is no problem. There is no personal responsibility. Their communication is limited and they have little or no self-reflection. Anybody got any of that going on at the minute? Okay, nobody yet. Stage 2, a slight expression of feeling and an awareness of the inner world beginning. So I like to say stage 1 is problem, what problem? I'm only here because of them. So there really isn't a problem to really talk about, hence the stifledness. There is no connection to the body. There's disunity. Stage 2 is, yes, there's a problem. I'm slightly aware of it, but it's still external. It's still outside my awareness. It's still outside me. It is that person. It is that place. It is that thing. I want to tell stories. I want to talk about. So there's an awareness of the issue, but the issue doesn't really lie within the self yet. There's no emotional connection to it. There's no full fluidity with the body. Or now there might be slight awareness. We're starting to come into some level of unity in the body, but it's certainly not fluid, and it's certainly, the levels of responsibility are certainly not there. And when I say responsibility, I don't mean they're responsible for the problem. That's not what I mean. This isn't a victim blaming thing. This is responsible in terms of, this is the feeling in me that I have in relation to this problem. Stage 3, awareness of the inner world begins to grow. and we're starting to get some fluidity. Sorry for the spelling there. They're starting to express deeper feelings, but controlled. So remember last night we talked about disunity. Maybe they're available to some emotions and not the other. That's normally stage 3, right? They're starting to come into their body a wee bit more. The problem is still external and both internal. Maybe this feeling is in relation to that problem. Maybe I can touch it, but maybe I can't, and maybe I will flit in and out. How many of your clients are at stage 3? Jenny, I see you nodding your head. So you're seeing some clients at stage 3 in and out of that awareness, holding on to story, holding on to narrative, not really able to come into the emotional material in the body. Let me know in the chat if you're seeing a pattern. So 1, 2, and 3 all have a lot of that emotional lockdown at play. So they'll have disunity to a certain degree, they'll have wrapping to a certain degree, and they'll also have this understanding of or this lack of being able to be with the inner world. So these components that we looked at last night are directly reflected in these stages of process. And you don't need to know the specific parts of the components for your client to understand where they are. All that you need to do is know how your client is showing up and what stage of awareness they're bringing to you. That should give you a strong indication of what's happening within. The correlation between the stages of process and the amount of factors of emotional lockdown are huge. Stage 4, emotions are expressed more freely, recognize belonging to self. They're coming away from the identification of the other. They're coming away from the identification of the story, and they're moving towards a deeper understanding of themselves. There's more fluidity in the body. There's more capacity in the body. There's less desire to hang on as a form of safety to the story. There's less desire to hang on to the blaming of another, the speaking of the other. Yeah, everybody with me? And there, what we find is the more fluidity, then the more unity that they have. Now, even up until stage 5, when there's significant emotional material available, I have seen clients at stage 5 and stage 6 who have all been therapists, who have all had huge fluidity, but they're still holding a lot of wrapping. Does that make sense? I have never seen a client, no matter what stage of process, especially the 5 and 6, that hasn't had wrapping. They might be able to regulate themselves better. They might be able to self-soothe better. They might be able to understand what's happening in. They might have full connection to their body, but they always have never seen a client without wrapping to some degree. Inside this program that I teach, inside what we call level 1 clearing, inside that program that we teach, we have lots of audio of a stage 5 or 6 processor moving from stage 5 to stage 6 who has so much wrapping that's crucifying them. So they have great fluidity and they have great processing, as in self-soothing, but they are crippled with wrapping and it's locking them out of the pain that they're trying to get into. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at these 4 components of emotional lockdown basically loosening as we move across these stages. So stage 5 and stage 6, there's a lot of fluidity, there's a lot of emotional fluidity, there's less narrative, less story, less identification on the outside. The client can move fluidly from the problem that it presents itself to the problem that is on the inside, it's emotional. And stage 7, as we know, Roger says, was a fully functioning person. The individual this demonstrates high psychological integration and growth, has huge fluidity. I think we can be there sometimes. I don't think we're there all the times. I think life is, no matter how much of this work that you do, I think we can move up between 5 and 6 and 7 on any given time, depending on what's happening for us. Can you let me know? I don't see in the chat, where is the majority of your clients? 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4. Where is the majority of your clients? If you were to ask yourself that question. 2. Brilliant, Nadia. Thank you. 2. So you have a lot of the factors of emotional lockdown going on. Yeah. Yeah. You're 4 and 5, still some control. Beautiful. 3 and 4, beautiful, fantastic. Brilliance. 3 and 4, beautiful, Natalie. Beautiful. Yeah. 4 and 5, Mary. Brilliant. Okay. So a lot of emotional wrapping, but maybe able to manage themselves, maybe an awareness a wee bit more, maybe less blaming the person, but still brilliant. May, brilliant. 3 and 4, wonderful. All right. That should be the framework that you work with your client from a safety perspective. Why do I say safety? I say safety because if the lower the stage of process, the more preparation your client is going to need to be able to deepen. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. The lower the stage of process, the more preparation work, i.e. wrapping work, self-regulation work, unity work, that client will need to be able to deepen them into their body, to be able to deepen them into a deeper sense of where this problem arises from. And when I say safety, what I mean is that we don't force the client. I know nobody here forces anybody, but we don't encourage, we don't move the client or try to move the client into a deeper awareness without huge levels of safety, because it's just too dysregulating to them, too unsafe. And here's why we see the unsafety inherent in being in the body. So that should give you an idea of the work, the preparation work, and hopefully take a wee bit of pressure off you. Take a wee bit of heat out of the system for you. Because from all of the effort and all of the techniques and all of the trying to move the client out of this stage of awareness, what we're understanding today is that it's not an easy process, and it is a process in and of itself. It's a preparation process. Is everybody happy enough for that? All right. Okay. So let us talk about how we manage. I'm just going to share another document with you. Let's talk about how we begin that process. So if you are looking at a lower stage of process, even up until 4, to be fair, 5 will need wrapping. But if you're looking at a lower stage of process, what we have found in clinical practice is that working in wrapping tends to collapse that system. If you work solely in wrapping as a starter, even though it's the biggest piece of the pie, it has the most effect on the emotional shutdown. It has the most effect on the emotional lockout. It has the most effect on disunity. So yes, there's all of these component parts. There's these 4 very important component parts. But what we have found, and what I have found in clinical practice, is that wrapping has the most effect. And when we start to work very directly on wrapping, say for example, you had a stage 2 client, stage 3 client, and you're not efforting to get them below the story, but you're efforting to help them unwrap, you will find that they will fall towards the emotional material quicker than continually just trying to tell the same story and trying to see if there's angles that you can get the client to be aware, even like forgiveness or self-compassion or any of those strategies. If you work directly on wrapping we lower stage clients, you will find that that client will move down those stages of process quicker than any other form of intervention that's out there. And here's why. Okay, we're going to go through why. We're going to look at the detail of that. We're going to look at the material of that. Here's why. And we're going to use our case study. All right. How's my pacing? Am I moving too quick? Has anybody any questions before we move to the case study? Put them in the chat if you have any questions. Okay. Nobody has any questions. Your quietness scares me. Is everybody all right? As long as everybody's all right. Yeah, okay, good. All right, Jenny. Okay, all right, Mary. All right. Okay. So let us have a look at a case study. So we are looking at a 40-odd-year-old woman, right? And she has attachment wounding. Now, in that attachment wounding, she feels unlovable. I'm going to talk now in a wee bit about that, May. So this is great because preparation is this work. All right, you have to do this work before you'll get on anywhere. So she has an attachment wounding. The attachment wounding is a sense of being unlovable. Everybody with me? The deep sense of being unlovable. A full embodied understanding of what it is to be unlovable. A lot of pain with it, a lot of material, a lot of nervous system activation. Okay? Everybody with me? That is the pain. She can't touch it. She can tell a lot of stories about it. She can tell a lot of narratives about it. She can blame her husband for not giving it to her and making her feel that way. She can please. She can placate. She can have a lot of secondary problems from this wound. So she can be a people pleaser. She can have poor boundaries. She can, put herself last. She can be a perfectionist. She can allow her partner to have multiple affairs and still stay in the relationship. She knows that she's wounding and hurting herself. She knows that it's difficult, and she's coming to therapy for that, but she can't actually work with the wounding itself. She can't actually work or access this feeling of unlovableness in her. And why can't she? Here's why. Because the wrapping that sits around that attachment wounding sounds like this. For God's sake, just get on with it. What are you complaining about? Don't you have a husband? Don't you have a partner? Does it matter what he does? Come on. Just get up and get on with it. People have it far worse than you. Whose voice is that? Where she learnt that? Where she heard that before? Now she tells it to herself. Don't touch that unlovableness. You're always looking for more love. Always looking for attention. You're always needy. Always been looking for something. You're so hard work. You're too much to handle. So if you touch this unlovableness, that therapist is going to see your unneediness. that therapist is going to be witnessing. You share this with her, she's going to see how much hard work you are. You touch that in yourself, there's nobody going to want to love you, nobody wanting to touch you, because this just makes you unlovable. Keep it in, keep it down, keep it away, don't let anybody see it, because it'll only confirm how unlovable you are. And what is this unlovableness? Maybe it's an illness. I think it's an illness. It's useless, it's pointless. What's the point in touching it? I have no control over it. It's not even worth trying. I have to live like this. This is never going to get better. I don't think I actually can touch it. I think it'll kill me. I think I won't survive it. I think I'll drown under the weight of it. It's like a tube of toothpaste. Once I let it out, I'm never going to be able to control it. So they are words. They are fixed in the client's frame of reference. She believes every one of them. But more than the words on the page, I want you to think about the emotional impact of those words. I want you to think about the weight of that emotional impact on top of that not lovable wound. What do you see in those words? What emotions can you see in those words? Because I can see despair. Let me know in the chat what you can see. This is really important because this is part of your preparation work. You're not going to be able to get near that attachment wounding under the weight of this. So let me know in the chat what you see. I see despair. Anybody else see anything else? Hopelessness, desperation, hopelessness, Luna. Yes, yes. Desperate aloneness, shame, fear. Yes, you can see it. Do you see what creates the disunity? Not only is the not lovable so heavy and cumbersome to have and so painful, drowning. Yes, Zoe, yes. Not only is that unlovableness excruciatingly somatic and emotionally painful, now we have an overwhelm. Now we have a system that cannot, yes, Mary, that cannot control, that's fear and terror, yes, that's despair, that sits on top of that wounding. And we are asking people without the proper preparation to tell us what the attachment wounding is like. I mean, come on. Seriously, if we understood what was going on within, we wouldn't ask the client to do the thing that is impossible. It's like asking somebody to run a marathon with one leg. It's an impossibility. It's a great idea, but it really is very, 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 very difficult, and we would never put somebody through it. And yet we're doing it every day. It is the lower the stage of process, the more of this is going on in your client. The more of this is going on in your client, the less they're able to touch that unlovableness. I have had a client today that is actually so wounded from the therapeutic processes that she's been in, it has created so much more wrapping that it's the majority of the work is in the wrapping, the majority of the preparation is in the wrapping. How does anybody touch unlovableness? The only other way I can describe it as a metaphor is, have you ever put, people have heard me say this before, have you ever put something in a bin that you've had to go digging for? You ever put a receipt or something that's important, and you've had to go back into that bin, and you stick your hand in the bin and you come out with a receipt, but you come out with beans and you come out with tea bags and you come out with everything attached to it. That's what this is like. When you're trying to work with attachment wounding, you are not working in isolation with that wounding. You are working with all of this material. And we are asking our clients to be brave enough to do this work. Then we must be brave enough to understand what's happening for them and piecemeal this so it's really, really well prepared. Because the second part of the process is this. Do you remember the four parts? Well, this is the treatment. What is likely for a client who has attachment wounding? How do you think she was treated? How do you think her inner world was treated?
Please, could you zoom in?
Yeah. So now are we seeing the wound? And then we're seeing all the components of the wrapping. And now we've got this, what I call treatment, which is a self-processing. How does she process all of this? She denies it to herself, doesn't she? She gaslights herself. She wounds herself because that's how she was treated. And now we've got more than tea bags and beans. Now that we've got a whole other system at play. And this is the noise that's inside the client's system. What does the nervous system do with this? Let me know in the chat. What does the nervous system do with this? Is highly activated. Nervous system stores it for sure, but it's also activated by it. Brilliant. Shuts it out in me. Brilliant. Disunity happens. Yeah. Now everybody, if we go back over what everybody said about the nervous, or what everybody said about the emotions, despair, hopelessness, what does the nervous system actually do? Puts the client into hypoarousal. Hypo, shutdown, functional freeze, pushes it all down because so the client becomes unavailable in this functional freeze position, not available to the body. And then we've treatments. And this client, I know I'm painting a very, very difficult picture here. So we're talking about a very low stage of process. But to be honest, guys, this is most of our clients that have got any trauma. Because we understand that trauma creates wrapping. Lack of attunement creates wrapping. Lack of regulation creates wrapping. And then it folds in on itself. And we somehow in the field have the expectation that the client can and will take us there without the appropriate preparation. And they can't. So now the client starts to treat herself really poorly. Now the client is starting to treat herself in all of this, gaslighting herself, wounding herself, shutting herself out, shutting herself down. We are dealing with a lot of material. And last but not least, we now know that there's disunity from the attachment. We now know that there's disunity from all of it. We have this negotiation of self that says, time's up. Forget about it. We're not going to do this. And what does your client do? The DNA. There we go. There we go, Denise. They close the door to the help. Yeah. This whole system comes to a burnout. Fabulous. He's starting to really get this. Then the client says, that's it. Do they know this? Are they able to consciously describe this? Absolutely not. It's just the way that they describe it is too much, too big, too difficult, too overwhelming. Maybe I can't. Maybe this is never going to work. I don't know what's expected of me. I'm trying hard to do what you're telling me to do. Yes, DNA, sorry, Mary. I did not attend. They don't come. Sorry. Yeah. Or they skip sessions. The dilemma is real. And what do we need to do? What is it that we're saying here is the solution? So if this is the problem, what is the solution? Can you see from the visual representations that wrapping has the most effect? Wrapping has the most emotional effect. And so that's where we begin. We begin by the process of unwrapping. We diligently, phenomenologically work through. And to that point, phenomenologically, somebody asked me to explain that in one of the questions. Phenomenologically is fundamentally you are understanding the subjective reality of another while suspending your own. It's Rogers called it empathy. I have a different understanding of it. It's a phenomenological understanding of the other, exactly as they mean it, exactly as it is in them, without any obstruction, just as it is. And when we work with wrapping, we work in a way, we first of all, there's 3 steps to undoing wrapping. And hopefully all of yous, yes, fundamentally, you see it from their subjective reality. Everything about it is theirs, all their frame of reference. You impose nothing. You keep it clean. You know nothing. You are nothing without anything. Yes, Denise, without any preconception. You are diligently giving of yourself to understand the other. There are 3 very particular parts of undoing wrapping. And the 3 parts are being able to spot it. And I'm sure that you understand that actually the first part of this I'm teaching you, spot it in your client. Spot wrapping. What is wrapping? Wrapping is a psychological phenomenon where the human condition is literally afraid of their own inner world and believes that their own inner world will do them more damage. They believe something about themselves in relation to their own inner world, and they believe that something will happen to them in relation to their own inner world. And it's a psychological phenomenon. We could talk about the science of why it happens. It happens because of introception, but it happens. It happens because of a lack of attunement, a lack of co-regulation. Children fill in the gaps. We know all of this. That's why it happens. And spotting wrapping, theoretically, in your client is the biggest thing that you can do. And I hope I have given my heart and soul to that for you. There is more than spotting because you have to work with it. So once we spot it, yeah, once we spot this wrapping, what we then have to do is that we then have to deepen and date phenomenologically, and then we have to deliver a healing plan and literally strip this wrapping out. Now, when we strip this wrapping away, piece by piece, what are we also stripping away? You remember the emotions that we talked about? What are we stripping? This is your preparation work, guys. You're stripping all of that stuff away. What else are we stripping out of the system? Yes, the client's story of themselves. You're stripping it away. You're making it easier. You're stripping the despair. You're stripping the hopelessness. You're stripping the powerlessness. And with that, you're creating capacity in the nervous system. Very directly creating capacity in the nervous system. When you create capacity in the nervous system, yes, you're stripping that inner story away. And what's happening is, as you strip that away, yeah, as you strip that away, you're getting closer to that wounding. Oh, you're getting closer to that wounding. Now the client has more capacity to be with that wounding. Now the noise of hopelessness. Now there's a bit of belief, Paul. Yes, that they can do it. They're more engaged in the process. They're more engaged in their healing plan. You aren't doing the hard work, guys. And the reason that we strip this away first is because this is important, but it's inconsequential up against all of this. So wrapping becomes the first piece of your preparation work. Treatment is your second, and the negotiations of self will feel softer. You never strip away them. Yes, you begin to at least, Mary, begin to at least start to hear what this has to say for itself. You begin to at least to be with this. If you don't do that preparation work diligently, then it's very hard. Let me go back to the three things I talked about. I talked about spotting wrapping. I talked about working very diligently in the phenomenological understanding of wrapping. And then that gives us a healing plan that we start to strip it away. We start to undo it. We start to process it. We start to let go of the cultural narratives. Yes, yeah, I'm not sure what your name is, ANF, I'm really sorry. But we start to let go of the things that we've been imposed upon about our emotional world. We start to have more fluidity. And what happens when we have more fluidity? We have more unity. And so, very directly here, we start to create capacity in the nervous system. We start to lose all of the stuff that we've ever been interjected upon us. We start to move down the stages of process beautifully, and we start to be able to heal. Hear first, hear the woundedness in us, be with that woundedness in us. And it's transformational. It's absolutely transformational. Is it hard work? Yes. Is it easy? No. Does it help them that they can learn it's from others? 100%. When they hear this really phenomenologically and they know that it's their mother's voice that has told them that they're so needy that they should never express their own emotion, then yes, it starts to soften. But we have to do that preparation work for them. We have to help them because this is so unconscious. This psychological phenomenon is so woven into them, it's so unconscious. So we begin by working in wrapping, and wrapping has the biggest impact, creates the most nervous system capacity and regulation, and allows us to move the attachment wound. It sounds, I'm sure, all very theoretically wonderful, but I'm wondering, would you like to hear a client express it? A real live bona fide client in session. This client is one of the bravest clients I have ever had the privilege of knowing. And for research purposes, she allowed her entire sessions to be audio taped and to be shared for training. I know, Denise. She's allowed her process from beginning to end to be audio taped, to be transcribed, and for our researchers to be analysing the information in this. And there's a 2-minute video, it's not a video, it's a 2-minute audio, where she talks about having had a break in therapeutic process. So we didn't have work for about 4 weeks. The work that we had been doing was all of this wrapping work, all of this preparation work, because she was trying to move towards the pain of being unlovable. Is anybody any questions about that? I really want to eke this out before we go, before I let you hear the audio. So the client has been in process for a long time. She's been removing the wrapping. She has been, and her wrapping was gaslighting. She wouldn't allow herself. She told herself she was weak. She told herself that she was just awful. She told herself that she was guilty for feeling the way she was. She said that she felt that she was just a scourge on me, and that I was going to get so fed up with her so quickly. And she had undone all of that wrapping, and she was trying to understand the primary pain in her that was creating havoc. She needed love so much, but she was petrified of love at the same time. And she was trying to get herself to be in the heart of the pain so that she could transform it. Because why else do we want to be in the heart of the pain? We only ever want to be in the heart of the pain so that we can transform it from our body, so we can alchemize it. So she was diligently working towards that. She had a 5-week gap. We had done an awful lot of work up until that gap. There was holidays and all sorts of stuff, and that's what the gap was. And I had holidays and she had holidays, and I hadn't seen her. And this is beautiful, Jen. I love the question. Initially, her stage of process, because she was a therapist, was 5. So she had great fluidity, but her stage of process in the primary pain was 3. So she fluctuated. So she presented as this, master of her own inner world, and she had so much knowledge and she had so much information. And I think she was more qualified than me. And so we embark upon this understanding of what this primary pain is, and it's very clear to me that she's blocked from it. From the primary pain, she's blocked. She has access to all her other emotions, but from the primary pain, she's blocked. Right? So there's this fluidity, part fluidity that presents as a higher level of process, but the amount of wrapping would have broke your heart. Is everybody happy enough and are ready to listen? So she's at a 5-week gap. She hasn't had the supportive therapy for 5 weeks. She comes back after 5 weeks and she starts to tell me what has happened. Everybody all right? Okay, you can ask me any questions after this. I want you to try and see it through the eyes of undoing the wrapping. Okay. Luna, you let me know you can hear this audio?
Yeah, sure.
I have never felt, I mean, this is nearly 4 or 5 weeks ago now, so I'm trying to really go back from these notes and memory, but and what the body was doing, but it was like, that imagery I talked about I seeing myself in the dark, alone, curled up, and I'm like seeing myself as a child in this place, and I'm looking at her. And so this experience over Christmas, I was the child, I was in the blackness, I was in the abyss, I was curled up in this black space, and it was me as a child, somewhere maybe between 5 and 7. I'm not sure, 4, 7, something like that. But I just remember thinking, oh my God, I'm in it. I'm not away from it. I'm here. I'm in it. And it was so surreal. It was I think the reason I'm getting emotional is just because I'm connecting back to that material. But it was I wrote here, it was like an exorcism. The experience was so I've never experienced anything like it. But the pain, and I could feel in my hips and my belly and my tummy and kind of at the very depth of me where I'm holding a lot of this pain. It was so excruciating. It was so painful, and I'm curled. I'm huddled up. I'm curled. I'm holding on to my partner, and I'm just like rolling around, and I'm like it would just it was like an exorcism. I can't describe it any other way. It was just like this pain that had to come out, and it was so intense, and it was like I was screaming and I was crying, and it felt amazing at the same time, right? Because it was like all of that pain that I just pushed down for so long. And as soon as I connected with it, I really felt like I was that child again. And it just birthed through me.
It's the embodiment of the original pain.
Yeah, it was.
Experience it through the adult, but that was what the child felt.
Oh, it was so incredible. And the pain of it, and this sense of again of being unlovable and not existing, and I don't exist without love, and love is all this stuff about love and loss, I, and I was just like, okay, I can see why I'm so um fearful of connection in a sense, or love, or that attack, because when I don't, so what I'm trying to work through now is what that's about, really. Because I know where we are in the pattern. This is all relevant and it all makes sense. But
yeah. What did you hear? Let me know in the chat. What did you hear? It's pretty powerful, isn't it? Let me know in the chat what you heard. And I'll give you my idea of what I heard. I heard somebody that was able to touch the rawness of the pain as the child. Who was able to see it, was able to hear it, was able to hear the details on it, was able to understand the phenomenological part of it. It's filled with unlovableness, it's filled with unsurvival, it's filled with pain, it's in my body, it's in my hips, it's in all my being. I want to scream, I want to shout. Oh, I did scream, I did shout, I did roar, I did roll around. Yes, Mary, excruciatingly hopeful. On the money. Excruciatingly hopeful. The detail of when she was able to touch it, the nuances of what it is. And then did you hear her say, I now understand why I have attachment issues. From that depth of pain and fear, I now understand why I have connection issues. How could you not in that? That is somebody who's fully embodied, fully fluidly, but embodied the core of her pain. The preparation that took to get her there safely was everything that I'm sharing with you today. Everything that I'm sharing, every piece that I have shared with you last night and tonight is what I did to get her to that place. And here's the amazing part. She did it on her own by herself with the help of her. You're a bit like a midwife, only she's on her own. She birthed, and did you hear her language? I birthed this out of me, and it was excruciatingly, and it was, and in that full session, if you listen to that full session, she's understanding and then wanting to go back to the pain because she wants to learn what the child felt in that pain so that she can remedy it. What that takes for any human being to be able to do that is no wrapping, brilliant treatment of themselves, zero wrapping, huge regulation and soothing of themselves and resourcing of themselves and holding of themselves, and a nervous system that has the capacity to do that. Jenny, she felt witnessed in it. No, me, because prior to it, she was closed it. She felt witnessed in it, rolling on the floor with her part as a self-witness, and as it reflected upon the experience was unfolding, sharing it with you again, such relief, and felt as safe enough to attach to the emotions in session. Yes, yes, you could hear it. Yeah, absolutely. But now she's in it. Now she can transform it. And did you hear what she said at the beginning? Do you remember the image that I shared with you that I had of me seeing myself as a child in that dark place? Well, now I'm not just seeing it, I'm re-experiencing it. Does that make sense? She's re-experiencing the feelings. This is what alchemy looks like. This is what when we talk about therapeutic process, this is what the alchemy of the pain looks like. But first we have to get it. And it is not hyperbole. And I'm not trying to sell you anything, right? You come to this course or you don't, it's entirely up to you. But I want to educate you as much as I can about what makes a difference inside the therapeutic process. What makes the process easy or not easy, because this isn't easy. But how we can really start to alchemize the pain that we're holding as human beings. What real alchemy looks like, what real transformation looks like. That's what it looks like. But there's a lot of preparation that has to be done before. But here's what I can promise you. Do you see, if you do the proper preparation work, guys, the rest of it is easy. Or if you do the proper scaffolding work, not just basic regulation work, not just basic compassion work, that's not enough. It's fine and it's helpful, but it's not enough. If you do this work, I can promise you the differences that you will make. And we have, at this stage now, probably about, across all of our clients, across all of our they come to it themselves. Yes, can you see that? Yes, they do. They come to it themselves with a proper prep, and they are engaged in the process. I don't think she's ever DNA'd in her life. She's engaged, she's led, she's leading the way. I am following, we're on doing it. The timing is so right, so perfect. But I can promise you this, if you engage in the proper processes, if you engage in the proper preparation materials, you will transform the way that that client manages their inner world. You will transform the way that they're attuned to themselves. You'll transform the way that they co-regulate themselves, and you will undo a lot of the pain that has been done, and they will lead themselves into the heart of the matter. And it is transformational. And it is why I spend so much of my energy at this stage of the process. So let me introduce something to you, all right? We call this preparation process clearing level 1, because you cannot do the deep dive if you cannot do this work, which is why we are adamant that this is part of your training. Whether or not you would go on to do the transformation of the primary pain and clearing level 2 is up to you. You can do clearing level 1 and apply it to your own modality, or you can do clearing level 1 as a way to clearing level 2. But this preparation work is vital, no matter your modality. It is absolutely vital. So I am inviting you to join me in that. Yeah, I'm inviting you to work with me inside this course, where I show you exactly everything that we have done here, but in finite detail. So I have given, I hope, what I can for these 2 hours that we've been together, or these 3 hours that we've been together. And I want to give you so much more. I want to give you the detail, genuinely want to give you the detail of how to work with wrapping, how to undo it, how to work and deepen it, how to do phenomenological deepening, how to do your undoing plan, how to heal, how to get the client to that stage where they're walking themselves to the pain, and that you're not exhausted and you're not burnt out and you're not trying 100 different strategies and getting nowhere. I want to teach you every single ounce of unwrapping. I want to teach you self-regulation appropriately, self-regulation of the pain. I want to teach you how to manage the negotiations of self. And all of that then creates unity. Now, I know some of you are on the safe unity course, but this is different because this teaches how to create the safe unity in a very direct way. So this, if you are interested in working long term in clearing and becoming a clearing specialist, you have to start here. You have to start at clearing level 1. You can't skip the process simply because the preparation is the most important part. And for those of you that just want to upskill in the preparation and use your own modality, you start here too. So let me share the details of the course so that you know what you're getting into, and that you know what's happening. Let me just share that. Okay. So we call it, it's clear training level 1. That's what we call it. Let's move through all of this. Okay, so each module, and this is really important, right? Each module will have a theory and skills seminar. Okay. It also has practical skills that I teach you live in session. And the most important part of this course is it's experiential. You will work with your own material. There are recorded demos. This beautiful, lovely client, you will get to see all her wrapping. You'll get to hear all her wrapping. You'll get to hear all her lack of regulation. You'll get to hear her negotiations of self. You'll get to see her journey. So not only will you have experienced it, will you get to see that client in full process, then you'll have the theory that underpins it all, and then you'll have the skill. So we're teaching this from 4 very particular ways. Experiential, through the eyes of a client that is actually in process. Theory driven, and skill driven. And all of that to say, it all comes with obviously your documentation, your training, it all comes. Now there's loads of bonus material that helps you understand the hierarchy of pain and all of the core stuff in the pain. You are in a private group with your cohort. The cohorts are small, and the reason that the cohorts are small are for safety purposes and quality purposes. I teach it live. Okay, so I teach it live. It takes about 14 weeks to teach. If you cannot make the lives, you can watch the recordings. Everything is recorded. The benefit of the lives is that you get to be in the room. Some people love the lives and love to be in the room and love to be with me experientially. And some people can't commit to the lives and have to commit to the pre-recordings. There are workshops that we also do, and we will do it as we move. So if you don't get a chance to come to the pre-recorded material, you can attend the workshops, and we have all of the details and the time frames of them and when they begin and how long they run for, and we can give all of that to you. That's all the technical stuff. I'm not really great at the technical end of it. I know some of you here are going to have very technical questions, very analytical questions. I'm not really great at the analytics. Leona is your girl if you want to understand the nitty gritty of how it's taught and the way it's taught. And so I want to give you an overview of what you get. So you're going to get all of them, all of the how-to of that, but it's going to be built into your own bodies. It's going to be built into your own levels of awareness. That's what you're going to get from this. You're going to understand how to work with your client, but you're also going to understand yourself. And you're going to understand the system of undoing and preparation in a way that you've never and will never outside this, because it's patented material for us, that you will ever understand. Here's all the technical stuff, Leona. I'm probably missing it all. That is the price of the course. It's 30% off for everybody that has come here, and there are payment plans available. If you can't do the one-off, then we want to make it as achievable for everybody as we can. There's the dollar amount. I know we have a lot of Americans, and that, I don't know, Leon, is that updated dollar amount?
Yeah, as
Grand.
of yesterday, yeah, and the euro.
Brilliant. And so we have we have these payment plans to make it as affordable. My feeling on it is I want to get as many people into this as possible so that we can train you, not only just for yourself and your own levels of awareness, but obviously to help your clients so that we don't have people trapped in this hope, hurt, despair cycle that they're all trapped in. I want to change the way trauma is treated and trained, and I want as many of you here, which is why we make it as make it as accessible as we literally can. We are also running, there's the start dates, and you can talk to Leona about the start dates, and we start next Wednesday. So if you want to take this now and transform it right away, then we're going to go next Wednesday. We also run this throughout the year. So this is the first cohort, and then there's 2 other cohorts. Isn't that right, Leona?
Yep, that's it. If you scroll on down, the dates is there for those.
Do you see what I'm not good at? Leona's now filling in what I'm not good at. So is that right? So
yeah.
May is the next date. Is that right?
Yeah, and then October is your next.
Good woman, thank you. So if you can't join this cohort, then you might consider joining some other cohorts in the year. And if you, because that you've all been here and you've all watched this, then you get your 30% off in any of the cohorts that you choose. And you have the benefit of the discount that you're here for, or that you get when you're here rather. So look, I think I've thrown enough kitchen sink stuff at you, right? But it's very, very, very detailed. The first module that we do is primary pain. We really want to understand what the client is holding, why they're disunified, what is happening for them, how to, the hierarchy of pain. This is a key component of the entire system. And so the first module, we spend about 2 to 3 weeks there. It's eye-opening. It's experientially eye-opening. And a lot of people get a lot of their own material out of that. You can see that we start with wrapping as a process. And the reason that we start with wrapping is because it is the best thing to start with practically. So we start where I want you to start in theory. Does that make sense? I help you understand primary pain, and then we get straight into wrapping. And the reason that we get straight into wrapping is because, as you've seen today, it helps everything else. So they are all of the outcomes. And yeah, we lead every group with the conditions, Rogers conditions of empathy, unconditional, positive regard, and congruence. It's a very safe learning environment. It's much easier than this when you're just coming to an early training, but that's how we do it. So we lead every group with safety, respect, and confidentiality. And we do that because a lot of it's experiential and there's a lot of shares. And that's why we can only take very few people. Now, Leona, what are we like? How many spaces do we have? Because we have people that have joined it from last year. How many spaces in total do we have?
Yeah, you guys are on a good footing because there's 13 left for January. And the rest is open because we've literally just opened the course. Although a couple of you are emailing me direct here or messaging me direct, and these are coming on board, so that's brilliant. Yeah, so for January it would be quick.
Okay, so for January we have 13 spaces. For the rest, it's open. So for the other 2 cohorts, it's open. Maximum we can take is 20, and I'm sure you understand why. As we grow, and I am genuinely hoping this, we will scale over the next few years. I need as many specialists as I can so that we can then train you guys to do the train the trainer, so that you could teach this stuff eventually, so that I'm not here teaching all of this. That's how we want to grow. That's how we want to put more boots in the ground. That's why we have a big vision of changing the way trauma is treated and trained across the world. And we have a big vision. It makes me emotional, of putting at least 100,000 therapists out of the world. It's massive. I'll probably never achieve it in my lifetime, but here you go. There we go. That's the goal, to change the way trauma is treated and treated and trained, and to put up to 100,000 therapists out into the world, and to become the leading form of trauma treatment in the world. It's big goals, but hey ho, there we are. I hope that I have given enough to you. I hope that I have inspired you enough. I hope even if you don't do that training, look, that these few hours that you have will transform the way that you think about your client's process. I heartfelt, genuinely hope that it transforms the way that you see your client, the way you see yourself, the way that you see yourself in relation to your client, the way you see your client's process. And that there's just that wee spark of something different in you now after this training. And I wish you all of the best with your clients and your own journey and your own inner world. I really hope to see you. And if there's anything that we can support you with, as you move in your own journey, stay close, stay beside us. We do loads and loads of trainings, loads of masterclasses. And if you're not joining us, do stay close to our work on our social pages, on our YouTube pages. Come say hello on YouTube. We have a whole strategy for new content that we're going to be uploading, and let me be of more service to you in the coming days and the coming years. Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure, and thank you for being gracious and kind with this material. It's my life's work as I share it with the public. There's so much coming from this organization in the future, so do stay tuned. And I really appreciate all your kindness and all your grace as I was sharing this material. Thank you so much. Good evening. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Denise. I'll hope to see you soon. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you. Thanks a million. All right, fantastic. Thank yous.